Welcome to the Misophonia Podcast. This is Season 5, Episode number 2. My name is Adil Ahmad, and I have misophonia. This week I'm talking to Jim, a self-published author in California. I've got tons of links to Jim's work and other things we mention in the show notes. Jim went the self-publishing route after some interesting office experiences. We talk about all that, plus his misophonic saga with family throughout his life. Like many others, this is the first time he's really talked about misophonia with someone, so it's always great to hear new stories and share knowledge in both directions. I'll be doing a couple of sessions at the Misophonia Association convention in just over a week. It's online again this year. Of course, I'll be talking about my experiences with the podcast, but also helping with another session on creativity and misophonia. If you come to my session, thank you in advance, and feel free to say hi in the convention's app. Some other of my usual announcements and plugs. The Misophonia Podcast app is out for iOS and Android. Podcast player, background noise generator, journal for tracking triggers that you can export, lists of resources for all kinds of things, and more features and fixes coming up, in fact, probably even later this week. So check it out and let me know what you think and if you have any suggestions. And if you forgot, you can always hit me up by email at hello@misophoniapodcast.com or go to the website, misophoniapodcast.com. It's easy also to send a message on Instagram at Misophonia Podcast. You can follow there, or on Facebook at Misophonia Podcast, and Twitter, where it's just Misophonia Show. If you like either the podcast or the app, please leave a review wherever you find them. It really helps get them in front of more people. Now, here's my conversation with Jim. Jim, welcome to the podcast. Good to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. So, Jim, whereabouts are you?
I'm in San Jose, California right now.
Oh, excellent. Okay. I used to be in San Francisco, so I know the area.
Oh, cool.
Quite well. What do you do there?
I'm unemployed right now, but I am writing self-published books for a living.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah. Anything miso related by chance? I've had one or two authors on before.
No, the current book I'm working on it's not about miso, but I do mention that I have miso in one of the chapters.
Oh, okay. So it is somewhat autobiographical, I guess.
No, it's a it's a nonfiction book about a sitcom, one of my favorite sitcoms, or a sitcom that I watched for the past few years on Netflix.
Oh, okay. Can I ask which sitcom?
Kim's Convenience.
Kim's Convenience. Okay, no,
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, well, most of the 5 seasons are great. I've been reviewing every episode this summer for the book project. They made 65 episodes. They finished the run earlier this year.
Gotcha.
It's a sitcom about a Korean American family that runs a convenience store in Toronto.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting.
Wait,
yeah,
I mean Korean. Did I say Korean American? I meant Korean Canadian.
Korean. Yeah. No, that's all good. Interesting. Yeah, I used to live in Toronto, so I know that whole area. I love a lot of great Asian friends there.
Yeah. Did you live in the Moss Park neighborhood, because that's where the TV show is set?
No, I was there briefly on basically a college internship, and I lived basically downtown. So I'm familiar a little bit with the Spadina area, but the suburbs have massive, just a lot of big Asian population in the suburbs, especially.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. And you said that in your book you mentioned in one of the chapters that you have miso. So I'm assuming it's not that miso was in the show. It's miso maybe caused. Maybe that the show triggered you in some way.
No. I'm trying to figure out why I mentioned it in one of the episode reviews.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I'm trying to remember why.
Well, you don't have to. People will just have to buy the book, and then.
I know why. It's because one of the songs in one of the episodes, it was featured in a mix, and I play mixes to block out the miso triggers.
Gotcha. Okay, so you play like DJ mixes,
Yeah.
like kind of house music, techno music to
Oh,
block out
no,
triggers.
not house. Hip hop or R&B are my favorite genres.
Gotcha. Okay, and so these are your go-to tracks for any for any situation.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Okay. Do you have like a playlist by any chance, like on Spotify or something that people can go check out or SoundCloud?
Oh, there are so many, man. There are so many mixes, so many podcasts, so many mix show podcasts.
Okay.
I'll
Yeah.
name one. I'll name one mix that I used to listen to all the time. DJ Jazzy Jeff did this all Dilla tribute in Philly in like 2015. So I downloaded that and I used to play that on my phone all the time and on my laptop.
What makes it a good mix? Is it something particular that? Sorry, I live in an old house that had a door open randomly, so
That's okay.
I'll cut that out. But anyways,
That's okay.
yeah. So I was asking, is there anything particular that you look for in the mixes, or is it just something that you just enjoy listening to?
I just enjoy listening to it. I enjoy listening to all those mixes. I enjoy blocking out the sounds that trigger me with those mixes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Um, yeah. So I guess wow. Because we already covered a few things about what you do, how you well, one of the ways you cope. Maybe let's talk about what's been triggering you these days. So you're self-publishing right now. I guess like a lot of us, are you probably in front of a computer at home, working from home or wherever you are.
Yeah.
What's your situation like right now in terms of how is this affecting you? How your miso has been affecting you?
Well, I'm living with my parents right now. Um,
Gotcha. And were they your first triggers, like a lot of people?
no, my uncle was my first trigger. One of my uncles.
Gotcha.
His snoring was the very first trigger.
Okay, you mentioned this, I think, in one of your first contacts with me. Okay,
Yeah.
yes, snoring is a big trigger for you. I
Yeah.
think you said eating not so much is
No,
really,
eating
yeah,
noises,
okay.
they don't bother me at all. In fact, I find them entertaining sometimes.
Yeah, okay, okay. Yeah, well, I mean, many of us have sounds that please us. That's great if eating is one of those for you. So you're okay. So you're living with your parents. So do your parents trigger you then at all?
Occasionally, if my dad
Yeah.
snores, then that triggers me. But because I always have headphones on, I'm always able to block out those noises.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Right, and you got your music on in your mixes. Okay. Okay. And then in kind of so would you say then your miso, unless you're kind of going out there randomly in the world, it's pretty under control now that you're here at home and you're only occasionally being triggered?
Well, there are a couple of other noises that trigger me,
Okay.
and we'll get to those immediately or later.
Are you sure we can get into it now? Yeah.
Okay, well, it started with my uncle snoring because he was he's one of my mother's brothers, and so
Yeah.
he'd come to visit, and sometimes and often he'd sleep over in the room I shared with my older brother. So that was fun when I was 5 and 6, having to hear him
Okay.
snore all night.
Yeah. Okay. That's rough. And and so that would keep you up. Like, how would you react at that age?
I would I would cover my ears with my hands. That's all I had. I didn't have headphones at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was
Did you
all I
tell
had.
anybody?
No,
You just kind of bottled it up,
I
kept it
bottled.
like a lot of us. Yeah.
I kept it bottled up until later when I had to share. When we what year was this? It was like 2002 or something. All the family members had to travel together to visit another uncle, and so
Mm,
we all. I wanted to have my own. I told my brother, my older brother, I wanted to have my own room. I didn't want to share it with my uncle this time. I wanted my own room because I didn't know it at the time, but I was suffering from misophonia.
yeah. And what did he say?
He thought I was being selfish and being dickish, and I didn't explain. I didn't know at the time that that's misophonia. So
Yeah.
I was able to get my own room, but the rest of the family thought I was being a diva. No, it's because I don't want to hear my uncle snore when we're sleeping.
So you mentioned it to your brother only, and did he go and tell the rest of your family, or how did that kind of spread?
No, I didn't tell them about the snore. I didn't say that it was snoring. I just said I want my own room. I'm old enough
Gotcha.
now
Okay. Yeah.
to have my own hotel room when we're vacationing together.
Right.
And that was
Right.
like the
Okay.
last. That's like that was like the last vacation we all of us as a family went to together.
Ah. Okay. Okay. And why was that? Why was that the last time?
I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I pissed everybody off because of the hotel room drama. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. It could be unrelated, but yeah, I'm just curious. Yeah, this has been about 20 years. Okay. And then, so again, how old were you around that time? Did you say around 12 or?
No, that hotel room, the thing about the LA hotel room was when I was in my 20s.
Okay. Gotcha.
I was already working. That's like the mid 2000s. Like when did uh when did Lindsay Lohan host Saturday Night Live? It was that year.
That was
It was that weekend.
September 20. No, I have no idea. But yeah, okay. Gotcha.
I remember the weekend because that was the weekend Lindsay Lohan guest hosted Saturday Night Live.
Wait, who doesn't remember where they were at that point? So, no, that's an interesting reference point. Yeah, definitely that would be in the 2000s. Mid 2000s. Okay, yeah, I mean, okay. Between you and me, I think, yeah, if you're in your 20s, you should be you should be able to have your own hotel room. Okay, so you made it so between 5 and 20, you didn't really tell anybody. You just kind of kept it bottled up inside, like so many of us do, right?
Yeah, and it wasn't just snoring. It would be like my next door neighbor's footsteps.
So it started to spread to other.
It started in
Oh,
college
yeah,
when
yeah.
I got my own apartment. Like I got my own studio apartment when I was going to university, and that's also when the miso started intensifying. It was because of my next door neighbor's footsteps. So what I would do was I would always take I had a little basketball. I had like a small basketball at the time. I'd always bounce it against the wall to try to get him to stop. And then I
Oh,
stopped doing that. I stopped doing that when he started noticing that I was bouncing the basketball on his wall.
did he confront you about the basketball bouncing and like how did that
Oh, I
resolve itself?
sometimes I'd hang out with him. We'd watch TV occasionally
Okay.
together, and so
Okay.
that came up in conversation. He said, "Jim, you need to stop with the basketball dribbling on my wall. What is going on?" I didn't tell him it was because of his footsteps were
Gotcha.
annoying me.
Yeah. Okay. Did his footsteps then stop happening? Did he stop?
No, they continued. I just learned to live with
Okay.
it, but they didn't.
Okay.
I just learned to live with it back then, and I would fight it off with the basketball.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
It never escalated into arguments. I'm glad.
Yeah. Did you find that as you became as you start to hang out with him that it the symptoms maybe subsided? Maybe your brain somehow realized that he's not some weird phantom threat that our brain
Yeah,
tries to
yeah.
convince us.
That's yeah. It got less stressful when we started talking about it, and I became less triggered by it when he started noticing that I was dribbling the basketball on his wall out of anger, and I realized
Hmm.
I was being kind of a dick. So that lessened too. My dribbling the basketball kind of lessened also.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting.
He
Um,
was a disabled uh, neighbor, so I felt really bad about dribbling the basketball on his wall because
gotcha.
he walked around on a cane.
Gotcha.
So
Okay. Interesting.
I started to understand, maybe the reason why it's so noisy is because he's having trouble walking
Yeah.
in his apartment.
Yeah. 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 Canes that are not necessarily quiet.
Yeah.
Um, so okay, so it sounds like you at least made it out of school. Were you triggered at all by at school and or was it mainly things that were happening first at home and then um in your apartment?
No, school is fine. At that point, it was just other people snoring and footsteps from either upstairs or next door would bother me.
Yeah, yeah. Did it start to affect like friends and who you'd hang out with?
No, I didn't have any friends.
Gotcha.
No, I'm kidding.
Um,
I had some friends, but
no, yeah. I mean, you're not the first person who said that they didn't have any friends. So my next question, obviously, is like, do you think maybe some subconsciously somehow fear of sounds potentially getting triggered may have kind of affected that,
yeah, I think it's.
or you're just an introvert naturally, you think?
I never had any friends who did anything that would trigger me, but
Mhm.
I'm sorry. What was I forgot the question you were asking?
Well, yeah, basically just trying to figure out, yeah, you know, there are people who come on and they just, they maybe they grew up with not a lot of friends, and partly because they may be afraid that they might get triggered by people, and then just after enough trauma and exhaustion from being triggered, they just kind of stop pursuing friends. I'm curious if maybe that may have been a factor, or you just had a very select group of friends for other reasons.
I'm just introverted.
No, that's yeah, fair enough. And then coming out of then so after your 20s, how did it progress? It seems to kind of, the number of symptoms kind of keep multiplying after that. Although, as we're getting our own apartments and jobs and whatnot, we have a little bit more control. How did it kind of progress for you?
Oh God, work culture.
Here we go.
That intensified the miso. People coughing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's about it. I think it's the coughing that really.
What kind of jobs did
triggered
you
me.
have? Were they just kind of like open office kind of? I mean, you're in
Oh
San
yeah,
Jose,
it was
so
it was
kind
a
of like the
yeah. The open plan office design is not. It's not a great office design for misophonics. It's the
right.
worst.
Yep. Did yeah? Why don't you maybe elaborate? I know a lot of us kind of can relate. Why don't you elaborate kind of on your experiences?
Okay, well, I worked as a journalist after university, and then as a coder. So I'm trying to remember back to those terrible years. Yeah, no, all I can remember is being triggered by other people's coughs.
Yeah. No, I totally understand. And so, as a journalist, you're typing away at the computer. As a coder, you're typing away at the computer. You probably have people right next to you, right, who are also just sitting there, um, coughing, clearing the throat, eating.
That's
Um,
that's where I discovered headphones, and headphones are a godsend.
yeah, I was gonna say like, yeah. What did you do? I mean, I've worked at places where they've supplied headphones just for because it's just become something a lot of companies do. Did you just grab headphones and just
Yeah,
listen to your mixes all the time?
yeah, that's when podcasts started becoming a thing, and I started listening to podcasts as well.
Mm-hmm. And did anyone say anything about? I mean, about you constantly in headphones, or was it just fine?
No, they just thought, oh, Jim's listening to his rap music again. Because I was surrounded by white people, and a lot of them hated the hip hop tracks I was always playing. So
Gotcha.
I had to deal with that as well. White people who shame you for the music you listen to.
Right. Okay. Yep. Yeah, that's a whole other podcast. But um, so how did it? Did you ever leave a job because maybe you couldn't take it anymore, or
I got
was that kind of
fired.
enough?
I got
Okay.
fired because I was trying to work remotely, and they didn't like that.
Yeah,
I
who
kept
would
this.
want to work remotely? I mean, that's such a weird thing, right?
Yeah, I kept it all bottled. I kept it all bottled up. I never complained about the coughs. I just never brought it up.
Okay. And then interesting parallel to wanting your own room, you at some point requested a remote situation.
No, that's the problem. I didn't request it.
Well, you just started working from home.
I just kept doing it more often until I was doing it every day.
Yeah. Okay.
It's also
Okay.
because I started to hate my job. I was becoming more interested in getting into writing. I was at the time trying to
Yeah.
become a graphic novelist.
Gotcha. Okay.
I was
Okay.
trying to distance myself from the job, but wow, it worked spectacularly, and I ended up fired.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And that, okay, interesting. So, and I'm assuming the remote working was primarily misophonia driven.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I didn't want to hear anybody coughing anymore. I didn't want to deal with white folks shaming me for the music I'm listening to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they're listening to Imagine Dragons and whoever else,
No, this guy,
Caucasians listen.
no, this guy was shaming me. He was listening to death metal all the time.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Well, death metal for misophonia has its virtues. It is loud and noisy, but that's part of another podcast we won't get into here. Okay, so interesting. So you got five. So is this and so was this kind of relatively recent then in the last few years, and that's kind of
No,
where you've
I
been.
got
Okay,
fired. I got fired in 2008, and I've never worked a job since then. I've deliberately tried to stay away from office culture because I know that it would, if I
yeah,
get an office job again, it would just trigger me.
yeah, right. And have you thought about because now everything's so remote? Have you thought about like while you're doing your writing, also maybe doing some remote work now that it's so prevalent, and maybe getting back to a remote, or you're just really happy with what you're doing right now, and you're
It'd be great if I could earn extra money on the side because
right. That's what I mean.
writing these
Yeah.
self published books, I'm not going to earn as much as I did as a coder.
Right.
That's for
Right.
sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'd like to in fact, I was trying to get writing jobs after I was fired, and no one would hire me.
Hmm.
So I just said, screw it. I'm just gonna blog and write self published books for a living.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, yeah. Right now, as with the whole COVID thing, there's so many coding opportunities that are remote now more than ever. So it might be worth kind of poking your head out and seeing what's out there.
I bet it's changed a lot since I was fired.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know about going back to coding. I knew that I grew sick of it later on. But in the
Right.
first couple
Okay.
of years when I was earning the most money I ever earned, it was fun.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So then maybe let's talk about continuing to go forward. So you're using music to kind of cope. Are there is there any other coping mechanisms that you've kind of come up with? Like when you're with family, you probably don't have headphones on all the time. Are there
No,
little?
I do have headphones on with my when I'm eating with my parents. I have it on
Okay.
all the time now in this condo.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of headphones do you have? Earbuds, big ass headphones, or
Big ass headphones.
yeah,
Let me
noise
look at the
canceling and
brand.
everything. Okay.
Yeah. Uh oh, it's called One Audio. That's the brand.
Hmm.
ONEODIO.
Okay, I don't know if I've heard of that. Okay, I'm sure many people have, but except me, probably. But okay, interesting.
Prior to that, I used a pair of Beats
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
headphones. I think this is like
Gotcha.
my 15th pair of headphones because they break like every couple of years.
Yeah, yeah. They break or get lost or something. So
I have
you
a
wear them.
I have a whole list of things I listen to in my headphones to block out the triggers. And it's not just music; it's also radio broadcasts of Golden State Warriors games, or the local classical music station. Or since I'm a Star Trek fan, I use this ambient noise loop of an Enterprise D officer's quarters from Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh yes. Okay. Okay. I gotta check that out. I gotta put that in the Misophonic podcast app because yeah, I was a big Next Generation guy, and I'm very familiar with that sound over the closing credits or in the officers' rooms. Um, Interesting. Okay. Okay.
I currently
Um,
use Maple Media's white noise generator app on my phone.
oh, what's good about that one?
Oh, you can pick white noise or coffee house
Pink or
noises
brown or coffee house noise. Okay, okay.
or nature sounds to block out the
Yeah,
triggers.
gotcha. Okay. Does it do anything else? Like it does let you mix sounds or kind of
Yeah,
change frequencies or whatnot? Yeah.
yeah, you can combine sounds at once. Sometimes you can combine as much as three or four.
Ah, okay. Cool. All right, all right.
And then
And
there's
so
the
yeah.
YouTube channel. This is YouTube channel called Lo-Fi Girl that I also play in my headphones.
And what is that? Like more just more different types of noise or background
Oh
sounds?
no, it's a loop of lo-fi hip hop instrumentals.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Interesting.
And while the
Yeah.
instrumentals are playing, the channel loops this animation of it's like a Japanese animation style. It's like an anime
Mm,
style animation of a girl studying beside her cat.
and that's it. Just constantly the girl studying beside her cat in anime.
Yeah, the animation is
Interesting.
looped while the
Yeah.
instrumentals are playing.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So you have all. So this is when you're eating with your parents, and so I'm assuming that when you're going out like grocery shopping or whatever, same kind of situation. You always have the one audio's on with something going on.
I haven't grocery shopped in 2 years because of COVID, so I'm trying to
Okay.
remember. I'm trying to remember what that's like.
Yeah.
Uh, no, I didn't have headphones on all the time when I went outdoors.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Just when you thought maybe you'd be around potential triggers.
Did I get to leaf blowers yet? Because that's my favorite trigger.
Yeah, no, I was building up to that because I remember from your initial email. Yeah, so let's get to that. We're talking about getting outside of the house now. So, leaf blowers, big trigger for a lot of people. Tell us about what you think about them.
Oh God, it started in this condo, the very condo I'm speaking to you from now.
Gotcha. Okay. And so yeah, so your condo is probably managed, and
Yeah,
there are probably um every week or so.
like
And are
once every week.
okay.
So
Yeah.
I take down like a log on my laptop of when somebody switches on when a landscaper switches on their leaf blower, so that I know when to put on my headphones.
Mm. And it's pretty regular then.
No, it's only once a week. But when I quarantined with my parents last year in the suburbs, uh, leaf blowers were switched on like almost every damn day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Some neighbor probably. Uh, uh, there's always at least one neighbor
So
per day
it was
who
it's always like a neighbor who had the landscapers come to their
come
house.
by. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. They always bring a leaf blower because it sounds like they're doing work, and they're just moving leaves around or sand. Um, okay, so how do you? So yeah, what does it do to you? What do you feel? How do you react?
Anger,
Do you say
rage.
anything? Yeah.
I curse. Uh, Before COVID, I would always leave. I would always leave and go see a movie. That's how I would cope.
Right.
I go see a movie
Yeah.
or go shopping.
Gotcha. And that would help melt away the rage.
Or the headphones if I
Yeah.
didn't want to leave the condo.
Yeah. Okay. But you wouldn't confront anybody. It would just be leave, like the flight part of the fight or flight situation.
Yeah, I heard that phrase a lot in the misophonia podcast episodes that you did. Fight or flight.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It kind of, for a lot of people, it kind of sums up the feeling and the potential reaction. It's you want to either argue or fight or take cursing to the next level, or you just want to get out of the situation. And for you, it seems like when the leaf blower is turned on, you just want to get the hell out.
Yeah, I need to live in a city that bans leaf blowers. I like started looking up I found a list of cities that have banned leaf blowers. Like I'm trying to remember what some of the cities are. Definitely not LA.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, we'll have to find that list and put that in the show notes maybe. But okay, so usually so then that was before COVID used to take off, and like a lot of us have felt, I think, during COVID, you probably feel kind of trapped and claustrophobic and unable to leave. What's it been like?
I've been wearing headphones all the time.
All the time. Yeah,
It
right.
annoys my mother. Oh, did I mention I've been a caregiver to her. I've been helping
Mm,
my father take care of her. So
mm.
wearing the headphones has been kind of difficult
Communicating.
when I'm trying to help
Yeah,
her. Yeah, and she's trying to
yeah.
give me orders or she needs my help. It's
Right,
been rough.
right. Does she? So I'm trying to think that so your parents don't know about anything about misophonia, do they? At this point?
I've tried to explain it to them. They've never heard of it.
Hmm. But I mean, you explained to them. Do they not, does it not seem real to them unless they've read it somewhere?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of like that.
Yeah, not uncommon. So, and when you start to, since you start to help your dad and your mom, to be a caregiver, is that when you decide to tell them, or did you tell them at some point in the past?
Um, well, I didn't know that there was a name to this problem until a few years ago.
Yeah, okay, let's talk about that. Right. Um, yeah, when did you find out it had a name, and what did you do at that point?
I think it was that interview Kelly Ripa did. I'm not
Mm,
sure. I can't remember.
that definitely, yeah, that definitely like introduced it to a lot of people. So I
Yeah,
wouldn't be surprised.
yeah, her problem with the eating noises, which is
Right.
not a problem I have.
Right. So okay. Somewhere around that time, you found out it had a name. You researched it, I'm assuming, like a lot of us do.
You
Um,
know what the first, this is going to be weird. You know what the first place is where I found out about misophonia? It was before Kelly Ripa. It was this news radio episode where Dave gets annoyed by Bill's eating noises. That's the first time I ever saw misophonic. Dave Foley getting annoyed by Phil Hartman's eating noises. He was eating cereal.
on the show News Radio.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Classic. Interesting. Okay. I have to rewatch that. Yeah, that's back from the 90s.
yeah.
Um,
One of my favorite
okay.
sitcoms.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's a right. That's a kind of a underrated sitcom, I think.
Yeah.
Um, okay. But I mean, that's in the 90s. At that point, there was no term misophonia. Was it a rerun you saw or something, or you just remember relating to that?
Uh, when did I see that episode? I saw it when it first aired.
Okay, okay. So you
I,
must have related to that at some point as a younger man.
I didn't relate to it at the time because I didn't know I was suffering from Dave's problem. But
Gotcha.
years
Okay.
later, when
You thought back. Yeah.
I realized, oh shit, Dave has misophonia.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. So, at some point, yeah, some point in the last whatever years, few years, 5 years, you found out it had a name. Did you start telling people?
No,
Okay.
I only told my parents. I haven't even told my older brother or my
Okay.
sister, and I think she might have suffered from it too when I was younger because
Mm,
I used to play my stereo loudly next to her room, and she would hit the bedroom wall whenever I would play it too loudly. So that might
hmm.
be a hint that she has it too. I'm not sure
Maybe. I
if
mean,
that's the same.
yeah, you'd have to talk to her. I mean, if she had a, yeah, I mean, I'm not one to diagnose, but it could just be that you're playing your stereo too loud, and maybe it's not specific noises, um, but yeah, that'd be interesting to know. But though for you, when you did find out that it had a name, is that when you went to your parents?
Uh, no, I didn't do that immediately.
Yeah.
Trying to find out when exactly. It's just been in the last few years. I discovered your podcast. I discovered that there's
Yeah.
serious research about this.
Yeah. I mean, it's not important when exactly when you told your parents, but yeah, but it's interesting to kind of know kind of how you learned about it in general. Um,
Yeah.
and when you so something compelled you to tell your parents. I mean, this is a this is an always an interesting question. Is like how do people when and how do people go and talk to the people who've known them their entire lives and potentially trigger them or knew or were around when they were triggered in the early days. Um, when you told why did you go and tell them? Yeah, after uh, bottling up for so long and
I
not really telling anyone.
I had to explain why I wear my headphones all the time in the condo.
Yep, yep. Okay. And this is when they were like, well, we don't know what this is. What are you talking about? Kind of thing, or it's kind of looking blankly.
Uh, I'm trying to remember their reactions to when I said it, that when I said I had when I tried to explain the condition. Um, they never heard of it. That's all I
And
remember.
how did that make you feel?
Well, it's not surprising to me. It's
Yeah.
the research hasn't been extensive enough. It hasn't been public enough to, to make this condition more recognizable and to make it
Mm-hmm.
be taken more seriously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Although you did mention that there's this researcher who had experienced a breakthrough or something. Doctor Indian last name,
Yeah, Dr. Kumar.
Dr. Kumar.
He's been kind of yeah. I mean, it's not not an overstatement to say he's been on the forefront of research in misophonia. And there was a paper published earlier this year by him. I had one of the lead authors, Merced, on basically his this latest research seems to point to basically what it discovered is that the motor neurons that let me back up and say a lot of people one of their coping mechanisms is to mimic the sound that triggers them when they get triggered.
Right.
So for example, eating, people will start to like move their jaws or make kind of eating sounds or smacking sounds, or maybe in your case, snoring sounds. I don't know, but there's something about trying to mimic, repeating the sound that seems to either people have the urge to do that, or and it actually kind of like provides some relief. Anyways, um, the this research study what it discovered was using fMRIs like brain scans. They
Mhm.
discovered that parts of your motor the motor cortex I might be messing some of this up, but basically parts of the brain that control movements of or that have to do with the movement of your own jaws um, get active, even though your jaw's not moving. It's kind of a pre-cortex, or it's like the early part of the thought process.
Yeah.
It gets activated while you are watching somebody trigger you, or while you are hearing somebody trigger you, and
Yeah.
so they seem to think there's this concept and relatively old, going back to the 80s or 90s, concept of mirror neurons, where you observe something, your brain gets activated.
Yeah.
This might have
Yeah.
to do with learning or whatnot. So, anyways, that's basically the link. That's what their research is kind of pointing to. Is they're theorizing that maybe what's happening is like um, like your motor cortex maybe should not be getting activated so much, and because of this imbalance, that you're feeling some uncomfortableness, and
Hmm.
that has to do with that might have something to do with the misophonia. So it doesn't answer all the questions, but it definitely feels like it's a direction worth moving towards, and
Yeah.
it's actually backed up by real brain scans.
Yeah. I did read about Dr. Kumar's research before I we started recording.
So that's kind of interesting. And then I know um, the group has a lot of other um, uh, research projects in the works now based on this and other things they want to do. Actually, one of the things that Merced talked about was wanting to research, um, going back to your idea of kind of sounds that actually entertain you. She has an idea that, like there are sounds that trigger you negatively, there are probably sounds that provide kind of the opposite
Yeah.
sensation, and she wants to somehow make it easier to pinpoint those and maybe provide therapy
Mm.
that masks the negative sounds with positive sounds, maybe even in real time, maybe, using implants or ear implants, something like that. I don't know. Now I'm kind of looking into the future,
Mm.
into the Star Trek: The Next Generation kind of world. But anyway, so yeah, I kind of went off a little bit on the on what's going on with Dr. Kumar and the research there. But yeah, there's some interesting stuff going on. Hopefully, it'll get more public, and then folks like your parents will start to realize it's real.
Yeah, I talked with my dad about this earlier about miso, and I told him, and he said, maybe you should see a therapist. Do other misos see shrinks?
They do, yeah, no, they do. So I think there's also a lot of some of them go specifically for miso, but in a lot of the cases is because they also might have some comorbid conditions like anxiety or OCD or bipolar and things like that. A lot of people, it's such a mixed bag. Like they may have already gone because they're seeing to see a therapist for other reasons. Sometimes they go for miso, but they've never their shrink has never, or their therapist has never heard of misophonia, and then they end up educating them. Sometimes the person already knows. It's a total mixed bag.
Mm.
And yeah, so in the way it's helped is it's, I guess, like cognitive behavioral therapy is kind of what's right now recognized as the most promising way to deal with it therapeutic, like in kind of like from a psychology point of view. um
Hmm.
there's some people do medication, but there's no
Mm.
medication that's specifically for misophonia. it's
Yeah.
it's so there's nothing like that. Basically, I mean, there's no you know there's no pill you could pop. There's no magic cure right now.
Yeah.
So there's people who've tried everything from hypnosis to all kinds of stuff, but nothing is really um, nothing has really worked out.
You just gotta rely on your headphones. They're your best friend.
Yep. I think I mean, but that's the kind of the go-to that a lot of people do. It's just the most convenient thing. Everyone has some kind of headphones, earbuds, and it's just the easiest thing to do is throw those on in any situation.
Yeah.
And
When I was quarantining with my parents, the headphones were for blocking out leaf blowers. But while I'm back in this condo that I left when I was quarantining, now I have to be back in this condo. Um, I'm wearing the headphones to block out the upstairs footstep noises.
mhm,
That's what's bothering me right now.
mhm. Yeah, well, headphones are versatile in that sense. They can just mask over the things that are bothering you. Um, and you don't get just popped in my head. You don't get. I've had a couple people come on who get self triggered in any way. Is there in any way is there like, do you at all get triggered by, do you snore? Do you get triggered by your own snoring? I'm just curious if that's even a thing for you.
I know I snore, but I've never heard myself do that.
Okay, that would be
I,
an
I,
awkward
I've
situation.
thought about recording. I thought about recording myself, but
Yeah.
no, I've never heard myself snore. I know I do snore because
Hmm.
uh, I've had family members tell me they heard me snore.
Right.
Am I the only
Um,
person who's triggered by snoring and leaf blowers? I feel like
yeah,
sometimes.
you are a total weirdo. So no, just kidding. Not at all. I mean, leaf blowers. I mean, dude, yeah, leaf blowers are huge for a lot of people.
And
Snoring.
upstairs footstep noises. I
Oh
feel
yeah,
like
upstairs, lateral, like neighbors, footsteps. Yeah. I've had people come on who are like, if I'm working from home, if I can hear people can hear the smallest things sometimes. It just gets amplified because of what we have.
Yeah.
There's also something called hyperacusis, which is an extra sensitivity to sounds. Like everything just seems turned up, and that's a little bit different. Maybe a little bit more well known, at least amongst audiologists and whatnot. But
Yeah.
that's another thing. I don't know if that has anything to do with what you have, but footsteps would. They're not necessarily quiet, and it's not like you're hearing it turned up. Like you'll just hear that. Anyone will be able to hear that. For us, our brains will just zero in on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've had a bunch of people on who, upstairs neighbors, very common. Next door neighbors, also common in apartments. So yeah, you're definitely not the only one. Story I don't know how many times I've heard, but that's I know I've heard multiple times that's come up.
Good. It's a relief to hear that, I'm not alone.
Oh God, no. No, of course not.
Because I feel strange about not being triggered by eating noises. Well, because I hear so much about people being bothered by those noises. Whereas I see like Paul Sorvino and Dick Tracy slurping oysters, and it's funny. But now I realize that might be triggering for somebody.
Yeah, for a lot of people, I think. Yeah, definitely for a lot of people. No, I've had numerous people on who eating is not a lot, but a few people on who eating is not even in the top 5 triggers. So
Okay.
have you so you don't have a ton of friends, and probably definitely nobody who has misophonic, unless you met except for maybe your sister, have you come across anybody else who has it, like in real life? So we'll get to like
No,
online too, but yeah.
no, I haven't met another misophonic face to face.
Right. And have you looked for folks online, like in those social media groups? Sometimes they're a complete free for all of rants, but sometimes you can find people that kind of maybe have similar misophonic profile in terms of what triggers you.
I've lurked at some of those forums. I lurked at the Reddit one, and then there's this one called, I can't remember. It's like a 3-word name, something to sound. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, maybe allergic to sound.
That's it. Allergic to sound.
Yeah.
I visited that site. I've read some of the forums there. But I haven't reached out to anybody. You're the first person I've reached out to about this.
So
online.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. How did you find out about this podcast? Just maybe one of the forums.
Yeah, I think it was allergic to sound where I first found out about your podcast.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Again, you're not the first person who's come on, and at least you've mentioned it to your parents. I've had people come on who've never uttered a word to anybody.
Oh boy.
They've just read about it, and that's the only time like the words have been spoken out loud. So yeah, like you said, there's not enough publicity about it.
Not enough literature.
Not enough literature, and it's just not in the zeitgeist enough to make it seem like a real thing to people. I think we're early in what I call the kind of the arc of wokeness. Like people just aren't woke to this yet, and but sometime hopefully in our lifetime, people will look back and be like, why weren't we taking this seriously? The warning signs were all there. And one day.
I just learned about misokinesia? I just learned about that yesterday.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's another thing that
I occasionally have that.
Yeah. It tends to come up later late for most people, yeah, later after misophonia. Tell me about how that's affected you.
I remember back when I was working as a coder, uh, whenever a coworker would, you know, bounce his knee up and down,
Hmm.
that wouldn't stress me out, but it would just annoy me. So uh, my that's not as intense as the misophonia for me, but I occasionally do get annoyed when someone bounces their knee up and down
Yeah.
repetitively.
Does watching people eat? I know sounds are not as much of a trigger, although you do wear your headphones around eating. But does watching people eat in any way affect you?
No,
Watching people sleep, maybe because snoring is a misophonia thing. Not that you watch people sleep a lot, but
no, that doesn't bother me either.
okay.
I remember writing a blog post a long, long time ago in the 2010s about the five funniest moments of powerful people eating in movies and TV shows.
Hmm.
And one of them was the scene in Goodfellas where I can't remember, was it De Niro and Ray Liotta and Joe Pesci eating?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then another was Paul Sorvino slurping oysters and Dick Tracy. Now
Yeah.
looking at those moments today, I'm like, oh God, I feel sorry for the misophonics who have to sit through these scenes.
I love Goodfellas, but I haven't seen it in a while. I'm wondering if I wonder if I watched it again, what I would do. Now that you pointed it out, I'll probably, um, probably need to mute it. But
There's a
yeah,
hilarious
that's,
scene in Bad Santa where Bernie Mac eats oranges
mm-hmm,
loudly
gotcha.
to try to piss off John Ritter.
Well, hey, I was gonna say Bad Son is not high on my list of movies to watch, but John Ritter I might have to take a look at that one.
I remember mentioning that scene on that list in that blog post that I did. But yeah, I if you're a misophonic who hates hearing people eat oranges, do not watch that scene.
Okay, I love John Ritter, but yeah, it's not worth being triggered to watch Bad Santa. Um, well, cool, interesting. And so okay, yeah. Well, I'm hoping your misokinesia doesn't get too out of hand. Um, anything we're yeah, I mean, we're already coming up to about the man. I forget how time flies in these interviews. Um, yeah, well, I mean, I want to give you a chance. Anything you want to share and say about misophonia? I mean, I know this is one of the first times you've talked about it at all. Anything you want to share with people listening?
I don't know what to say. I don't give up hope. Just try to reach out with other misophonics.
So, but have you do you listen to other mis? Do you respond in those online forums and whatnot and try to kind of like put in words of words of advice or um how would you yeah I don't know, have you thought about like how would you talk to a misophone as they're going through a trigger or trying to help people cope?
All I can say is just make sure that you have a pair of headphones by your side.
Mm-hmm,
I don't know if
mm-hmm.
that will help, but it's helped me all the time.
Yeah, that's classic advice that never gets old.
Do
Um,
misophonics like count to 10 or do relaxation techniques or anything?
yeah, there are various. I think there are some medically sounding relaxation kind of things, but I mean, meditation comes up. I mean, it's not like meditation um, works for everybody, but um, I think just trying to lower stress. I mean, stress is a huge mm, catalyst slash exacerbator of misophonia. So if you haven't slept that much, if you're super stressed at work or something else is going on in your life, you're it's pretty much guaranteed that your reaction to misophonic triggers is going to be worse. So if you can reduce the stress in your life, um, and that could be even honestly like that's why I mentioned earlier, like maybe trying to find one of these remote jobs to get some side income, just kind of like having things like money less of a just less of a concern is is a way to just kind of help reduce the triggers, because you just feel a little
Yeah.
bit more comfortable. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I agree with that.
relaxation, stress reduction, definitely. Yeah, I don't know about counting to 10, but definitely reducing stress. So, well, cool. Jim, yeah, unless you want to share anything else, thanks for coming on and
No, thank
sharing
you.
your story for kind of, I think, the first time publicly. I know this is going to help a lot of people. I mean, you were wondering in the episode if you're mentioning how sometimes you wondering if you feel like you're alone. You're definitely not alone. If I've talked to a few people who've kind of shared similar struggles as you, trust me, there's like thousands and thousands in the same boat. So yeah, this is going to help a lot of people. Thank you, Jim. That was great, and I wish you the best of luck with all your work. If you liked this episode, don't forget to leave a quick review or just hit the 5 stars wherever you listen to this podcast. Music, as always, is by Moby. And until next week, wishing you peace and quiet.